Everyone, we're going to get started, so get settled. Just like this lady's doing right now, not to put her on the spot, there's a lot of really good information off to the side. So at any point, come up and get it. If you need to sneak out before we start the forum, before it actually finishes, make sure to grab the literature. Some of the best things, the hurricane guide is put on by the state. It's great information. So if I go too fast, if you missed any part, just grab a hurricane guide. It's all in there. So it's really good information. I want to thank Deputy Director Stacy Miles from Oslo County Emergency Management. She's going to speak a little bit more specific town and county information. My name is Eric Hayden. I'm a meteorologist with the Weather Service in Newport, Morehead City. Mr. Zach is one of our new employees who started a week ago, and I'm dragging him out already for the presentation. So tonight's talk is about hurricanes. We're going to talk about hurricane preparedness. I've spoken to some of you that have been here for a long time. Other folks are new to the area. It's all applicable. And I think a lot of you will learn something new even if you've been here for a long time. Try to do one thing after tonight to become prepared. That case of water you know you should have, those canned goods that you've been trying to get but you just have been putting off, try to get that now because we're getting toward the peak season. We want you to focus on the impacts of storms, not just the category. Water specifically is what kills people. 85% of deaths are water related. 85% of deaths are water related. And never ever focus on just the category of the storm. Category is important, but it only tells us what the wind speed will be. It says nothing about how much rain we'll have, what side of the storm will be hit by, did we have a storm last week, things of that nature. If you were not aware, this hurricane season is expected to be a busy one. Has anybody heard that in the news? Probably. So it's updated August 8th, 90% chance it's going to be an above normal year. We're meteorologists. We get all the jokes. It's the only job you can have and be wrong all the time. I see some of you nodding, so some of you might have said it. It's the only job that you can be paid to be right half the time. I know some of you have said that. So if you've said that, you probably know we don't toss around 90% very often. Pretty rare we say 90% chance of rain, 90% chance of this. So this is us waving our hands saying we're especially concerned with this year. We've already had multiple storms, so it's going to be an active one. But it really only takes one storm. Until I can tell you how many storms we're going to get, or if they're actually going to hit Onslow County, this outlook doesn't do us a lot of good. You should be preparing each and every year for preparedness because it doesn't matter how many storms we get in the whole ocean. It depends on how many storms we actually get at the local coast. Our website is one of the single best resources you can have. It's weather.gov/Newport. To remember that, it's weather you love, it's weather.gov. We've got jokes with this presentation as well. So weather you love, it's weather.gov. Click on Eastern North Carolina. I see some folks writing this down. That's very good. You can also scan the QR code and you can save that to your phone. If you have no idea what those things mean, see me. Mr. Christian at the end, he will help you with that, or Mr. Zach, he can help you put it on your phone. I say that website is the best resource because it's your local weather service office. We are one of 122 offices in the whole country. Alaska, Puerto Rico, Maine, Hawaii, all over. You have an office down the road in Carteret County in Newport that covers Eastern North Carolina, one of 122. So that is a local resource at your fingertips. Forecast, yes, but also tropical information like our briefings that we send to Ms. Stacy, and also Hurricane Center information. The forecast cone, anything you see from the Hurricane Center, you're welcome to get it from the Hurricane Center, but you can get it directly from the resources down the road. If that didn't convince you, you are paying for this. $4 a year per person to fund this. Whether you like the Weather Channel, your local news, radar, satellite, all of that is paid for us by our tax-paying money in this room. We fall under the Department of Commerce and NOAA. We've been around since 1874, first on the Outer Banks, so we've been here for a long time. You're paying for the resources, you may as well use them. Another good link is the Hurricane Center website. Again, you can get it from our local page. You don't need to save a bunch of them. But some folks like to go there directly. It's hurricanes with an s.gov. You can scan that QR code. One thing I want to point out is this tropical weather outlook. Raise your hand if you're aware of that or have seen that before. So some of us, this is on the local news, the Weather Channel, and the Hurricane Center website. 4 times a day, we update the chance for a storm. So the yellow is a low chance, orange is a moderate chance, and red is a high chance of a storm. And this particular graphic shows storms that have been named. Right now, we don't have anything, knock on wood, to worry over the next 7 days. This is not something you need to look at every hour, but once in the morning, check it out during hurricane season. Just be knowledgeable of what's out there. This is even before it gets a name, and if you should be concerned with it. So it's really good information. A lot of you are probably familiar with this. This is the single most used graphic from the Hurricane Center. Again, you might see it in a different format. It might be your local news station or national news, but they're all showing the same thing. That's the official hurricane forecast. This is what you should be paying attention to, not the spaghetti model plots that a lot of people post on social media. People tease us. They say, do you draw all that crazy stuff? No, those are just different scenarios of what could happen. They don't do you really any justice because it's not an official forecast. What good does it to show you one track that might hit Swansboro and 20 more that show we're never getting here? It just gets you worried needlessly. Focus on official sources like us and the National Weather Service. This cone map shows you where the center of the storm will go. I'm not a lawyer, but we say that for a specific reason. It does not show who will be impacted and who won't. Doesn't show you how much rain, how much surge, none of that. It's only designed to show you where the center of the storm will go. Did Hurricane Florence impact us? Yes, but the center of the storm hit Wrightsville Beach. So the point is, if you're anywhere near this path or cone, you should pay attention. If it's from Florida to Delaware, you should be paying attention. The cone gets skinnier as the storm gets closer because our accuracy we're more confident. It has nothing to do with storm size. So with Florence, New Bern, and Morehead City, places east of us, we're actually not in the cone about a day and a half, but we were certainly impacted. So yes, it's useful, but please don't say, I'm in the cone, I should pay attention. It's going to hit Myrtle Beach, I don't have to worry about it anymore. That is not the case. It just shows where the storm will go. There's a ton of information on our website and the Hurricane Center page. You want to know when the tropical storm force winds are going to get here? When should I evacuate, or when should I complete my yard preparation? Look at that graph. We give you a worst case scenario and when we think it's actually going to happen. You want to know how high the surge is going to get in Swansboro, Queens Creek, Hubert? Look at the graphics we have on the Hurricane Center site and the local page. So a lot of information is out there. You just have to know how to access it. Weather.gov, click on Eastern North Carolina, or hurricanes.gov, all at your fingertips. If you didn't get all that, raise your hand if you're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. All of that information is on social media. That's where we really stop and say, this is what you should pay attention to. I did that tweet in the upper left during Florence. It was Thursday, the storm was pretty much here, but people were still calling us saying, should I come back to the area? It's now a 1 instead of a 4. Is it not going to be as bad? No, no, no. If you can't read, it says category of the storm is only related to wind. It does not tell you about all the impacts with the hurricane like Florence. Our impacts have not changed with storm surge and catastrophic flooding. Catastrophic flooding. I get paid the same tonight as I do during Florence. I don't benefit of having a storm. I don't need to worry about ratings. I don't need to worry about my job. I have a job tomorrow, no matter what happens. So when I use strong language like that, it's because we care about the community. My mom lives in Swansboro. We live in this area. I'm not from another area. I care about you. So when we use language like that, we really mean business. NWS in Morehead City, that's how you can find us. And YouTube is pretty cool. This recording that we have tonight, you can view it. So for neighbors that missed it, you can share it. And if you want to know what I'm telling the town of Swansboro and also County, the same information I'm giving them, if you have 5 or 10 minutes, you can watch a video on YouTube. We'll tell you exactly what we think is going to happen. So lots of information out there. Your job is to cut through the noise and pay attention to official sources. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to make sure on all your socials, you use the same naming convention.
Yes, ma'am.
NWS Morehead City.
Yeah.
So we just search by that, you should be able to find it.
That's a perfect point. And I should reiterate that we have a camera here today. We have some people joining us virtually. We'll save this and post it to YouTube. So I'll just repeat your question. A great question from the audience. Is NWS Morehead City how we name our social media for Twitter or Instagram and Facebook, and yes, we kept it simplistic, so it's all the same. Awesome question. Very, very good. So your job is to pay attention to official sources. Don't worry about what you see on social media except official. You don't need to worry about a storm 2 weeks out. That's never going to get here. We'll tell you, believe me, it will not be a lack of information. You need to focus on credible information. Otherwise, you're just going to tire yourself out before it even gets here. A really good resource for hurricane preparedness is our website. If you're familiar with what you just wrote down, just add hurricane prep to it. The next couple slides, eventually I'm going to tell Christian to advance it. That website is not changing. So if you're writing it down, take your time. That's a great website. Everything from storm surge to rainfall, rip currents, we've got everything on there. Graphics for Spanish speaking population, videos for the deaf and hard of hearing. Lots of really good information. What should I have in my kit? What are our evacuation zones? Know Your Zone is a campaign in North Carolina. Oslo County has evacuation zones. All that is on that website. That last bullet point is extremely important. We are busy. Kids are going back to school. It's the end of summer. We're trying to wrap up vacation. We got a lot of stuff going on. But I can guarantee you, if you go get that case of water at Walmart tonight, it's going to be there, and you're not going to be stressed. I can guarantee you, if you wait until we have a storm about 5 days out, the stores may run out, and you will be stressed. Think about your life when you had decisions to make. If you're under pressure and stressed, sometimes you made good decisions, sometimes you didn't make a good decision. If you planned out when it's quiet, you will make really good decisions. And that's why we talk about preparedness before the storm gets here. It's really a 3-step process. Step 1 is, what is your vulnerability? What's your risk? Do you live in a low-lying area? Do you live near water? Have you ever been flooded before? A couple resources. If you Google NC flood maps, North Carolina has a great system where you can look at gauges of current water level, but also flood maps. Are you in a flood zone? If you're in a 100 or 5-year floodplain, you can see those resources. Since I mentioned those words, I do want to reiterate, you might hear 100-year flood or 500-year flood. That doesn't mean every 100 or 500 years that happens. It's a statistic. It's a 1 in 100 year, 1 in 100 chance any year, or a 1 in 500 chance any year. So it's like the lottery tickets. You can buy 2 scratch-off tickets and you win twice in a row. You don't win for another 20 tickets. It's a 1 in 100 or 1 in 500 chance any year. Obviously, 1 in 100 is a more risky. You live in a more flood-prone area. Second bullet, your flood or your risk includes more than weather. We think about weather. Do I live at the coast? Do I live in a low-lying area? Those are all important things to think about. Who is in your household is also very important. Do you have grandkids? Do you have kids? Do you have elderly parents? If I lose power, it's not a big deal. I'm uncomfortable, but I can live without it. I'm not on oxygen. I'm not on dialysis. I don't have a medical need. I don't have a CPAP machine. I don't need electricity to live. Some people in our community have got to have electricity for their living. So your vulnerability is more than weather. This is what you need to think about now. If you have I said kids, pets, anybody in your home you need to think about for your vulnerability. Based on that, you make your hurricane kit. I'm sure most of us have heard at least 3 days of food, water, and medicine. And that's good. Anything you would need to survive on your own for 3 days. You have kids, it's diapers, it's formula. You have cats and dogs, it's dog food, cat food. Again, elderly parents, whatever they need. Everybody in your house. 3 is a bare minimum. We really want to try to stress up to a week. It's not because you might not be ready to be up and running right after the storm. It's because the store may have been without power. They need to restock. Or the store, the road to the store has been washed out, so it needs to be repaired. It takes a long time to get back up and running in our community. So you can't just go out to CVS and get your prescriptions. You can't just go out to Walgreens and get contacts. If you need prescriptions, contacts, anything you need, make sure you don't need it for the next 7 days. So again, if you're running low on prescriptions, get those things filled. Consider the whole family, and I mentioned supplies will run out. There's lists out there on our website, but you can search it. But essentially, you want non-perishable items, canned goods, things that you can cook without power. Having like a Coleman, a little gas stove is good. If you have a propane grill, that's fine. Anything you can cook without electricity is what you're looking for, non-perishable items. Last but not least, have a plan to evacuate. So first, how vulnerable am I? Second, hurricane kit up to 7 days if you can. And step 3, have a plan to leave. A lot of people that have lived here for a long time don't have step 3. Miss Stacy, I'm never leaving. I've been through, Gloria and Irene and Isabel and Nicole. I stayed in Florence. I'm not ever going to leave. Please do us a favor, at least have it in the back of your mind where you would go if you needed to leave. So if we do get a category 3 storm that's bearing right down on Swansboro and Onslow County, and you've never left before, and now you want to leave, you have a plan of action. We try to stress at least 2 places to go, just completely opposite of the storm. So I grew up in Maryland. My plan A for my family was to send them up to my parents' house. Baltimore, Maryland, they're out of here for Florence, no problem. Plan B is South Carolina, so completely opposite directions. You can't just go to Kinston or Goldsboro or Raleigh. Sometimes you can. With the Dorian, yeah, go to Raleigh and you'll be just fine. With the Fran or Florence, it can be just as bad or worse inland than it is at the coast. It just depends. No 2 storms are alike. So have options. Whose family comes down and visits them from time to time because they live by the beach, right? Pay them back. Pay them back. Call them up, and they are part of your evacuation plan. It's cheaper than a hotel, and they owe you one for visiting all the time anyway. But in all honesty, it's a way to get out of here. And speaking of that, I do want to touch on the financial part. I say go to a hotel, go with family, and get 7 days worth of goods. We can't all do that. We can't all go to Walmart tonight and get all of our goods. Can't afford to do it. Spread it out. That's why we're talking about it in May and June and July and August. Get your canned goods this weekend. Next week, get the bottled water. When you spread something out, that's going to lessen the financial impact. So with planning, you can make those decisions. I can't afford a hotel, so I'm going to go to friends and family and try to think of cheaper options to actually make it happen. Why are we talking about this? We are the most prone location to storms in the entire country. Whole country. My daughter's here. We were talking about this last night. She said, really, isn't it, Florida? I said, Florida does, they're close. We're talking just frequency. This map shows what's called a return period. On average, how many years between storms? Our area is about 5 to 7 years on average that we see storms. We stick out into the coast. You got to remember that our coastline does include the Outer Banks, so that's part of it. So we are the most frequently impacted stretch, bar none, in the country. Now, South Florida is close, and they do tend to get bigger storms. It would hopefully be hard for us to get a category 4 or 5, but it is more likely for them. In terms of frequency, we're up there. So if you're any new folks in the audience, yes, we get a lot of storms. Pretty much every year, every other year, we have something. We already had Debbie this year. In past years, Isaias, Dorian, Florence, Ophelia. I mean, we just get them year after year, at least something. If you needed any more storm names, there are. We've got some folks in the audience that have been here for a long, long time. How many of you have been to Jacksonville? Beautiful Jacksonville. Did you know that it existed in a different location before? Completely different location. For those that have been down on Camp Lejeune, Courthouse Bay area, in 1752 there was a storm, and the town of Johnston was Old Jacksonville. That was the county seat. All our records were there. The jail was there. That was the main place. Big storm comes in 1752, wipes out the town. One of the only things left is the jail. They decided to move to where present-day Jacksonville is. So we have had a history of storms for a long time. They have moved towns. In Carteret County, Shackelford Banks, that area, Diamond City, there used to be a city out there until a storm in the late 1800s. Folks moved to what's known as the Promised Land of Morehead City, Salter Path, and Parker's Island. Whole communities have moved because of the storms in the past. It is not to scare you. It's just to show you the reality that we've had more storms than just a Florence or Floyd. Not to belittle them, but we've had storms for hundreds of years, and they're going to keep on happening. So we need to prepare. This graphic shows that the peak is usually about September 10th. So as I stand here today, Christian is going to show you that that graph goes way up. August 1st, August 20th, notice that slope is going way up. So we've had storms as early as May or June or July. Go one more slide, Christian. But the bulk of them occur September and October. Some of our biggest storms have occurred September or October. I still remember Florence in 2018. It was still new here. And somebody said, it looked like we're going to make it through hurricane season, where the kids are back in school after Labor Day. And I tried to shut them up. I said, stop. But it was too late. They already said it. And that year, we, of course, had Florence. So about the 16th, 10th to 16th of the season of September is our peak. But don't let your guard down. We get well into September. We don't have storms. That's when Matthew and Sandy occur. So it's a long, long season here that we try to preach. We're becoming more accurate with the forecasting. Our big challenge is hiring people like me to talk about communication. A lot of people focus on the category. Do you know anybody that has said this, or maybe you said this? I'm not gonna leave unless it's a 2. I'm not gonna leave unless it's a 3. They base their whole decision based on the category. The category is important, but it is only wind. It does not capture how much rain we have. A lot of our big storms have followed other rainfall producing storms. Doesn't say anything, are we wet? What side of the storm are you going to get hit by? Is it slow moving? Is it the right side of the storm? So category is important, but it is not the whole thing. We've had a lot of just ones, Florence and Matthew, recent ones, almost 200 deaths and $200 billion of damage since 2010. So if you're new and your neighbor says, oh, it's just a 1, don't worry about it, ask them how much rain, how wet has it been, what's a storm surge. There's so many factors that go beyond category. If we could get people away from category and look at the impacts, we would be in really good shape. If you're going to focus on anything, it's water, water, water. You should be familiar with the picture in the upper left. This is Swansboro as we head toward Carteret County on the left side, the north side of the road along the White Oak River. North Topsail Beach, Strand. Those pictures look like Hurricane Michael in Florida. We can get very high storm surge at our coast. That's Jacksonville and Florence, and then North Topsail Beach. That's the boat ramp to nowhere, or your little bridge over the dunes. The dune is washed out. We lost 15 people in Florence. 11 were flooding. All 11 were in vehicles. So never ever cross a flooded road. The majority of those deaths are in vehicles, but it's either storm surge, flooding, or rip currents that killed the most people, about 85%. Notice the eye of Floyd. This is from '99. That's where that center of the storm is. This is an infrared satellite picture showing you the storm. The higher, brighter cloud tops are the showers and thunderstorms. Notice how long it takes for that dot, that center, to get up here. Just let it run. So it takes a long time for a storm to move through our area. It's hundreds of miles across. A lot of people focus on where's it going to hit? When's it going to hit? Where's it going to hit? It's important, but you have to remember a hurricane is not a dot on a map. It's hundreds of miles across. So it takes hours and days to move through. So don't focus on just where it's going to hit. Storms can slow down. And in the case of Florence, it was here for 4 days. And some people were caught off guard. They were surprised it was so bad since it was just a 1. But if you get 4 days of wind and rain, probably going to be a bad storm. Past experience can be a good thing, but it can be a bad thing. Some people think since they made it through one storm, they're okay with the next one. Every storm is unique. Did it hit at high or low tide? Were you on the right side of the storm or the left side of the storm? Was it slow or fast moving? Did you have 10 inches of rain last week? It just depends what happens. So some people don't think it's going to be that bad based on past experience. And anchoring is you don't need to be a meteorologist and every minute check the forecast. But do not check the forecast 7 days out and, oh, it's going to hit Bermuda. I don't need to worry about it. Ernesto, we never really had to worry about it besides rip currents. Check back once a day. Things can change. We're not going to have a dramatic change. The weather service, we like to ease one way or ease another way. But check back. Don't just say, hey, I looked, it's going to miss us, and I don't have to worry about it. Always check back for information. This is an important slide. We've gotten a lot better at preparedness prior to. Get pretty good with the kit, getting pretty good leaving if it's bad. A lot of people left in Florence, did a pretty good job. What we need to improve is after the storm. Don't let our guard down. If you get a generator, know how to use it. Don't use it in an enclosed space. I say, Mr. Eric, I didn't come all the way on a weeknight to hear that I should not use a generator inside. We lose people each year because of carbon monoxide poisoning. It happens. The water is nasty outside. So if you decide to stay or you decide to leave, stay away or stay inside. You don't need to be in your yard seeing what's going on. You don't need to be traipsing through water. We have septic systems in our area. We have lost people that had injuries, wounds on them due to infection. This is not news media trying to scare you. This has happened. So don't be in the water. If you're not usually doing yard work, if you're not usually on an ladder, let a younger person do it. You don't need to be the first yard cleaned up after the storm. Falling off the ladders, we've lost people to electrocution, a lot of issues. You've done all this preparedness. Don't be silly at the end. Make sure you don't rush through things. So we're going to wrap up and end this way, and then we're going to turn it over to you. If you got any questions, for some folks that have been here for a long time, any stories to share, and then Miss Stacy's going to give you some county and town specific information that may not be as weather centric as mine. So we're going to end with this. If I tell you don't pay attention to category, what should you focus on? It's these 5 things. So first for us is storm surge. Again, Highway 24, the bridge over the White Oak River, that's what it looked like in Florence. Water across Highway 24. Don't assess your storm surge based on landfall. Landfall was not in our area. It was down toward Wilmington, and we still had a pretty bad storm surge from that. But every storm is unique. Swansboro, I think the height technically in Irene was higher than Florence. Just depends how the storm comes in, depends when high tide is. But storm surge, probably one of our biggest issues in our area, along with rainfall flooding. What we have here is a reasonable worst case scenario. This is a category 3. Fran was a category 3. This is not some end of world scenario. A category 4 or 5 would be that. But a 3 is very realistic, and it will probably happen in my lifetime. It's going to happen. It's already happened before. So this is not something to scare you. This is reality. What you're looking at is a prediction of storm surge in the county. We're going to zoom in here in a second, but just to get your bearings, the blue is more than 3. The yellow is more than, the blue is less than 3. Yellow is more than 3. Orange is more than 6, and red is above 9. Before Christian zooms in, I just want you to look up the White Oak River towards Stella, over towards Cedar Point, crossing the White Oak River, very vulnerable. You don't have to be on oceanfront property to have storm surge. And a lot of people are nodding your head, hey, I know this, but think about new people moving to like a Newburgh. You're 50 minutes inland. You probably would never imagine that the Neuse River could be pushed up to 11 feet high. Any of those tidal creeks, they can come up very high because of storm surge. So out toward Hubert, Queens Creek, that whole area is susceptible. So I don't want you to just think it's a North Topsail or a Hemmocks Beach problem. It's not just an ocean problem. If you live in a low-lying area along the creeks or rivers, you are susceptible to storm surge. We'll zoom into Swansboro specifically. Christian points out between Swansboro and Cedar Point. That's the bridge, that we come across every day, or a lot of us. The low spots will get covered with water. And then to the left, Christian, of Swansboro is Queens Creek, that big body of water. So any of those tidal areas, low-lying areas, again, specifically in the river, but if you're in a low-lying area by there, you can get some storm surge up those places. So kind of keep that in mind. I took this picture on the way to North Topsail. I forget what road it is. I think it's down toward Hemmocks Beach. I don't think it's the main road. But I was trying to make my way down there, and you see the little sinkhole on the side of the road. We had one on Highway 24 across from the Public Works building. When you have conduit under the roads, when it's built for a certain amount of rainfall, 100-year flood, 500, whatever it is. And when that's exceeded, when that pipe can't take any more water, it erodes the earth around it or rocks. Very, very common for this to happen. So we do get flash flooding. The category of the storm doesn't tell you how much rain we're going to get. Florence was a category 1, 20 to 30 inches of rain. Debbie last week, a foot of rain for some of us, had no number. So pay attention to how much rain and storm surge we're going to get. I should tell you, You don't need to be a meteorologist and calculate this. Watch Channel 12, Channel 9, your favorite local news, national news, whatever you want. They're going to be saying the same things, or you can follow our website to find out how much rain we're going to get. We like to emphasize the flash flooding with this one. I know Miss Stacy probably has seen this 100 times. So this is Snow Hill, Hoboken. It's out toward Greenville. We're extremely flat. If you just drive toward Raleigh, that first hump you hit feels like, you know, there's a little bit of topography. Where you have that, you can have these road washouts. So to our west in Kenansville and Maysville, those areas can get it. And water's real powerful. It can sweep a car away about 1.5 feet of water. So never, ever, ever cross a flooded road. We kind of know that. Hey, don't cross a flooded road. But you don't know if the road exists. So when you're driving at night, you don't know how deep the water is, and you don't realize that the road even exists. So you decide to stay, that's fine. Stay. You decide to leave, stay away. Don't go around barricades. Don't come back at night. Try to travel during the day. Your routes getting back may take a while. Statistically, in the country, about half our deaths occur in flooding, and it's in vehicles. It's like having a smoke detector in your house. Extremely preventable. Flooding is not scary if you don't drive through it. If you don't drive through it, you're going to be perfectly fine. So turn around, don't drown, never cross a flooded road. We don't have a lot of, we've got the White Oak River and the New River, and it can flood, especially with regards to water being pushed backwards. But a lot of our larger rivers just inland from us, and then the creeks in the county will cut you off or will prevent you from coming back. So when we get heavy rain and we have creek and river flooding, it can be many days until you can get back or get around across the county. We emphasize this because you might say, I live in an elevated area, I'm not at the beach, I'm at 20 feet high, I've never flooded, got the best generator they sell in the market, I'm going to be perfectly fine. And you probably will. Your house will be okay, you've got power, you've got a generator. But what you don't realize is with all the low area around you, creeks and rivers, you're an island. So Miss Stacy, they can't get to you if you have a medical emergency. So you're fine. You're perfectly fine. You got your 7 days of supply. You're not going to flood. But first responders cannot get to you if you're surrounded by water. And we have a lot of water in our community, and we will have a lot more when there's a hurricane. So just kind of keep that in mind. When you're saying, I'm not going to evacuate because I'm okay. Just think about what if you needed to call 911. They're not going to be there at snapping fingers if they can't get to you because of water or roads being washed out. So try to keep that in mind. This last week, we lost somebody down in Surf City from Hurricane Ernesto. Back in 2019, Dorian impacted our community, mainly Ocracoke. We kind of dodged the bullet here. But we lost 8 people in 2019, 4 at the North Carolina beaches from Lorenzo, 2,000 miles away. More people died at our beaches because of Lorenzo than Dorian. So this is why last week we were doing media interviews, we were pushing on social media, we're waving our hands, screaming. It's a nice weekend. It's one of the last weekends we can go to the beach. High population, sunny, and the storm is hundreds of miles away. Rip currents kill more people in our community than anything else weather-related. You could add a tornado, lightning, flooding, all of them, add them all up, and rip currents still beat it, almost by a factor of 4. So any awareness on rip currents you can help us with is good. Swim at a lifeguarded beach. If the red flags are flying, you should not be in the water. If you get caught in a rip current, it does not pull you under, it pulls you out. And your natural reaction when you get into deeper water, even if you know you can swim, you might panic and try to fight it. Or if mom and dad are saying, hey, you're getting too far, they're going to tell you to come back. And if you fight the rip current, you'll become exhausted, and that's where you have issues. If you can just remember swimming left or right, parallel, however you want to remember it, once you're on this narrow current, it's a conveyor belt of water, then you can easily come back in. There's nothing to be afraid of. Sandbars are where the waves break. A break in the sandbar is the water rushing out. That's where a rip current is. Surfers use it to go out to the wave, and then take the wave on in. So there's nothing to be afraid of, but you cannot fight them. You've got to swim left or right. As long as you do that, you'll be perfectly fine. But we do lose a lot of people each year because of that. We're getting toward the end. Wind is important. It will take out your power. It can cause property damage. I don't want to belittle it, but usually it's water, water, water in terms of you live it. but a tree could fall on your house. You certainly communication issues for a while. This is Hurricane Arthur. Does anybody remember Arthur in 2014? So for those that have lived here for a while, does anybody remember Irene? I see more people remember Irene. Are you sure? So you remember Irene. Irene was a 1. Arthur was a 2. Irene and Arthur hit in the same spot. Irene was a slow-moving storm, larger, way more impact on the community. Arthur was a 2, compact, quick moving, wasn't really a big deal. Right? Re-emphasizing category is only related to wind. It's a lot of factors with it, more than what the category is in terms of if you're going to have it in. Last but not least, I'll never forget this image. Family was heading out of town. The first outer bands of Dorian were coming on shore. We issued warnings right away for Onslow County. Tornadoes, the thing's already spinning. With Debbie, we lost a life up toward Raleigh. EF3 tornado. Big tornadoes can happen with tropical systems. They happen very quick. You're probably not out shopping. You're probably inside. Make sure your phone is charged up. You don't have it on Do Not Disturb. Have a NOAA weather radio that's battery powered, so you have a way to wake you up, so that you know quickly where to seek shelter. Inside, lowest level, away from windows. That Vogel up here, that's an EF2 tornado. Pretty big tornado for these areas. That last point is important. Tornadoes can occur with any tropical system and well away from the center. I think it was like 12 to 18 hours until Dorian really got up here, the center of the storm. So you know, that satellite image I showed you, those first bands, whenever that first band of rain comes on here, that's when tornadoes are most likely. So if you decide to leave or stay, make your decision and make sure you have a way to get multiple warnings. All right, we're going to turn it over to Miss Stacy, but before I do, sometimes this can be a little overwhelming, even for people that have been here for a while. They hadn't realized tornadoes, storm surge. How do you keep all this track? We live in one of the prettiest, awesome areas in the country. We love our tourists, but as they continue to leave the area the last couple of weeks, I've loved it even more. Not a lot of people on the roads. Don't we live in an awesome area, right? It's our responsibility to be prepared each and every year. Some years we're not going to have anything, and some years we will. Have the hurricane kit, be prepared. It's a responsibility to live in an area like this. Share this. Not all of us can be here. We got school next week. We've got ball games going on. So when we post that link, share it with the community. Try to focus on the impacts. Don't make your decisions just based on the category. Remember nothing else, and we get a tropical storm or Cat 1, 30 inches of rain, please take it serious. Don't just say, oh, it's just a 1 or tropical storm, I'm not going to worry, and do not forget about after storm. That is my email. We love to do community talks. Miss Stacy and I have been at North Topsail, Jacksonville, Lejeune, kind of all over. I'll take some questions, and then Miss Stacy has some really good info on